Hey guys, Dr. Dex here. Today we are doing this. Basically, we are finished up with this project. We're still waiting for a building permit for our back deck. The most amazing deck we'll build this year is being held up. 7 months so far in permitting. So, if you like what you see today, please click that subscribe button and hit that bell icon to be notified when we're putting out new content, which is 3 days a week right now. So, all right, basically what we had done, we had built this little landing. You guys probably caught the episode of that. Now we are installing the cable rail. We had to install these fascia mount brackets first, and everything we did on this little garage landing, we mimicked from the back deck. So we have our fascia mount brackets installed, and then we installed our posts, and now we're installing the metal top cap. And then what I'm doing right now is I'm getting ready to install the finish cap that goes on top of that. And that's a piece of 5/4 by 3.5 or 1 by 3.5 AZEK dark hickory. The whole deck's dark hickory, skirting, everything trim. So we're doing that as well to match. And then once that's done, I can tension the cable. So I'll show you guys how I do it since we're here today, and that's gonna be probably a major portion of the video. It'll be interesting for you guys to see how this particular cable rail system is installed. So basically we have our post set, everything's level. This is a system by a company called American Structures here in Auburn, Washington. And this is called a Series 400. What it is, it comes with everything for your cable rail, and then there's a top piece that goes over the top of your post, and then you drill through that, and then you go from underneath, and you install the top caps that way, and then, so it's all hidden fastened. And then once that's done, there's a little snap cap that goes underneath here that hides all that stuff, and then we can get to the cable. So that's what we're getting to right now. We're gonna get that done, and then you'll see the rest come about. For short one part, one of the... All right, so we have the top cap finished. Now it's time to lace the cable and get it pre-tensioned. Then we can tension the cable, and then we can cut it to length, finish it off. So the next step on how to install cable, on this particular brand, there's a swaged end, and it has a threaded end on it. And what happens is, when this goes through the post, you turn 3 full threads, and then you stop. So basically, you pull this through, and I usually put a little mark around the outside edge of the cable, so I know, or the fitting, so I know how much to turn it. And then I try to go 3 full turns. But before I do that, before I forget, there's 2 other things I gotta do. I like to use this Loctite anti-seize. It works really good on stainless steel parts, because if you get any galling on your stainless steel parts, they lock up, and it's almost like they weld themselves together, and it's virtually impossible to take that apart. So I put a little bit of anti-seize on the threads of my parts, so I just make sure that they don't gall up. And then one other thing that we have to do is we have to add these little washers to the ends. This helps the threading process when we're tensioning the cable. This helps keep things moving good, so it doesn't dig into the aluminum too much when we're spinning these on. So, okay, so now that I have my anti-seize on and my little washer on the end, I can start to thread this on, and I have my pencil lead, so there's 1, there's 2, and there's 3 full turns. So then I can erase that if I want, or I'll do it later, and then I can put this back through. Okay, so that run is ready to go. We'll show the other side in a minute. So what I'm going to do right now is the same exact thing 10 more times. All right, so we're just gonna keep going. It's not gonna hurt to have a little anti-seize. And I've learned these techniques because through different companies I've purchased different rail systems through. So some of this is included in this package and some of it was not. But it's all good. Okay, so again, usually what I do is I go through and I just put a pencil mark on each end before I get too crazy. The pencil line really helps me identify that I got those 3 full turns. And then another thing is you gotta make sure you're fitting, when you start to tension, make sure your cable fittings are completely seated against the post. Because see how they can pull back? So that's why I like to kind of push the cable through and make sure we've got a decent amount of tension on here. So these are flush. Because when I tension the cable, all these threads are gonna go inside. You will not see these threaded ends. All right, so we have all of our cables threaded on this end. Now we need to go to the other side of where the cable ends, and I'll show you how we're going to finish threading that side. The only one we can't do is number 6 because we don't have the fitting for it. So Nas is on his way to get that, and then we'll be able to finish up when he gets back. All right, so we're on the other side of the cable system, and we have another fitting. This is a pull-through fitting, and there's a spring tensioner on the inside of each one of these. So when you thread these on, these fittings, you kind of spin them clockwise to get them to go through. The cable pulls through this way, but you cannot pull it off. You have to use a special little tool. If you need to get these off, you have to use a special little tool that goes onto the cable, and then you release the spring, and then you can move the cable on and off. If you make a mistake, if you forget to put in this little washer, or if you accidentally thread it in the wrong hole, which I've done before. So once you get it threaded on the cable, then you want to go ahead and get it going through the post. Okay? And then you pull pretty tight on it. And you can, as you can see, when I pulled on that, it pulled the fitting away from the post. On stairs are a little bit tricky because you're going at an angle. You're starting from a straight and then you're going into an angle, so they can be a little trickier. So sometimes it's kind of nice to have this little spring tool in case you got to reset the cable. Okay, so on stairs, there's where the fitting's supposed to be. I'm just trying to get it snug. There we go. So you always want to make sure that your fittings are flush or wherever you need them to be on your rail so that when you go to tension them up, you don't end up with a part that's buried inside the post instead of flush with it like this. So before I tension anything, I'm going to go back and double check both sides and make sure that everything's seated properly before I start tensioning. All right, now that the cable is pre-tensioned, but it's still not taut enough, obviously this will get loose and stretch out. We don't even have our threads in yet. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take my duckbill vice grips, I'm gonna clamp it right on the cable. There we go. And then I'm gonna go ahead and use a socket. I have a socket with the right size bit on it to fit inside the fitting right here. I'm going to start tensioning, and you'll notice these threads will disappear inside the post. You're hearing some rattling as well. That rattle is actually some stiffeners inside the post, and that noise will go away as well. Okay, so that just told me that it's getting pretty tight. That sounds pretty good. So Sometimes I do it to sound, sometimes I do it to tension, but I want to make sure that a child cannot get through here and here without a whole lot of effort. The top one's tight. Now I'm going to go do the very bottom one. Okay. I need to give it a little bit more tension because I want to make sure I bury the threads in the post. I don't like seeing those from the side. There we go. Sometimes the duckbills are hard to release, so I just use my socket to kind of help me out because it can hurt your fingers a little bit if you're... That's really tight. As we tighten up these other cables, the top and the bottom are going to loosen up a little bit because you're pulling everything together and you're putting tension on the post, and even though there's stiffeners inside the post, it's still going to want to take it in a little bit. So that's probably a little too much tension, but it will loosen up as I start to tighten these. You can definitely see a difference and feel a difference in the cable as you tighten it. Now, there's a lot of companies that have special devices that help you with the tension of your cable. For this particular install, I don't have any of those with me, so I'm just kind of going by feel and by a little bit by sound, but mostly by feel to make sure that we have enough tension on the cable so it's not too loose and that it's not going to come loose in the future. All right, so that's a wrap on this little landing. Basically what it is, it's TimberTech AZEK, dark hickory, and that's your landing and your stairs, fully trimmed and skirted in all 1x6 and Cortex with AZEK Cortex color matching plugs. The rail system was done by American Structures and Design. We installed it. This is a stainless steel, it's an aluminum and stainless steel cable rail system with a Series 400 top so that we could also install a really nice AZEK top cap on top to match the deck. I think it's a really classy look. I love the way this looks. Cables are nice and tight. Railing wasn't actually necessary on this little landing because it was under 30 inches tall, but the client just wanted everything to match. So we did what they asked us to do, and I think it's a nice result in the end. So they have a full 3 feet of access with the fascia mount. We just went ahead and matched that to what we have on the back deck. And then we did some really nice heavy trim on the bottom just to kind of give it a nice look. So that's what this little landing's all about. Let's go take a look at the dock. All right, so we're standing down on the dock now, and the dock was already pre-framed. The client had framed the dock, but he wanted us to come in and lay the top surface of it. So we chose AZEK dark hickory for the color, and the dock was 23 feet wide, so I was coming up with some ideas on how we could do a pattern or make it look right. So what we did, we made a triple border around the entire surface of the dock, and then we put some seams in it to split the lengths so that, and that's something traditionally that I do on a lot of my jobs, is I like to have intentional breaks. I don't like to run random patterns too much where you're trying to butt joint 2 boards over an 1.5 inch joist, or even a double. I don't do that a whole lot. So we were able to add some framing to what he had done and reposition some things. And I thought this thing turned out really nice. We also added a little 6-foot corner bench in the back, and we decided to make the bench seat out of coastline, and then we wrapped that in dark hickory as well to kind of give the bench and some cohesion with the upper deck because it's all coastline as well. So it kind of ties some of the colors into the different areas on the property. We also Cortex this deck as well. It's all stainless steel screws that are face screwed to the framing, and then a lot of Cortex plugging goes on. On a dock, my favorite way to fasten a deck board is by using a Cortex screw, stainless steel face screwing, because you get so much more action. A standard deck won't see the kind of action that a dock will. So I don't use clips on docks. I don't believe in them. I think things are going to move and water's going to be splashing and boats are going to be bumping into it and that kind of thing. So we always like to face screw Cortex. Every joist is doubled screwed, and there will not be any issues with this dock for many, many years. We also added some cleats, some rubber bumpers to the outside of the dock for protection from boats and jet skis, and we added their ladder back in place. So this was a really fun part of the project to do, And let's go take a look at that upper deck. All right, and finally our upper deck. This deck was already a waterproof deck to start with. It was already pre-framed, already had some plywood and some type of an elastomeric or vinyl coating on it. And so what we did is we took TimberTech AZEK grooved coastline boards, and we used a Dexter Dry waterproof gutter spline in between those boards, and we figured out a way to compress the boards, so we reinstalled decking right over the top of the existing structure. The challenge with that is that this deck is 60 feet wide, and it's a little bit like this, and it wasn't, each end was not square to one another. So by the time we got to the far end, we really had to try and make an effort to keep the deck board square to the house. It was a challenge, but we got through it. From there, we were able to use a set of trim. We took a piece of multi-width AZEK dark hickory and installed that on the bottom. Since the decking had to overhang the existing waterproof deck, we had to create some spacers for a 5.5-inch piece of AZEK decking that went on the top. If you'll notice, there's also a 1/4-inch gap so water can drain off the deck and drip down below, and so it's a good way for the water to exit off the deck. From there, we had to make some special fascia mount shims to push out the railing system so it can make it past our existing drainage that we had on this deck. It was also a challenge, but we figured it out, and then we were able to mount the fascia mount brackets through our shims into the existing frame of the deck, which made it real sturdy. We actually used Fasten Master ledger locks to install the rail system to the end of the deck. And then we were able to mimic the same idea like you saw on the other little deck, where it's stainless steel cable, black aluminum posts with a Series 400 top, and then we put our own AZEK top cap on top of that. Really clean. It was also a challenge to keep this 60-foot line nice and straight. Again, because we were working with a pre-existing deck, so there was some issues with things going like this. So we had to re-shim everything. We shimmed them out once to get them level, and then we had to re-shim them out of level to make them look straight. So I hope you guys enjoyed this build. We really enjoyed showing it to you. Don't forget to click that subscribe button, and please hit the bell icon to be notified when we're putting out new content. Leave your comments below, and don't forget to like our videos. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day.